I'm sure you've been there in an audition room where you're feeling really anxious, your palms are sweaty, your heart's beating really fast outside of your chest, you can't concentrate, you keep forgetting your lines, and all you can focus on is the other person. There might be another person in the room, or you might even be doing a self-tape where all you can focus on is the outcome, or you can focus on is whatever everybody else is going to do, what other people are going to do for this self-tape. What if I don't get this role? So then you feel more anxious. So we're going to be talking about that today when it comes to anxiety and really starting to break that down. So one thing when it comes to anxiety is understanding where it comes from in the first place. One thing we can say is preparation is important. Yes, it is, because if you feel more prepared, you're going to feel less anxious. But that doesn't necessarily determine that you're going to be less anxious just because you've prepared. Yes, it's going to help, but we need to get to the roots of why you're feeling anxious in the first place. So let's explore that. So some people feel more anxious than others. And here's the reason why. It's because the pattern that you get used to, your environment. If you are approaching situations going head on and you're putting yourself in situations regularly, that resilience around that, so you're going to feel less anxious. However, if you don't do that, if you're not putting yourself in situations that make you feel anxious, then you're going to reinforce that anxiety, especially when we look at avoidance. Anxiety is based on anxious thoughts. Okay, so this is what I want you to realize. It's not just a feeling that we have. It's based on the thought that you had in the first place that made you feel anxious. So you get into this spiral of anxiety. Okay, so the anxious thought you had was based on that audition, that self-tape that you did. So you had that first anxious thought. The anxious thought might be, I'm not good enough, this isn't going to work out. So based on that negative thought that you have, your brain is going to search for all the reasons why it's not going to work out, which reinforces that feeling of anxiety. Then you get the next thought and the next thought, and they all turn into anxious thoughts. It's usually based on a blueprint. So how you've grown up, we'll go into this in another video. But it originates from that. But the more you tell yourself you're anxious, your brain will say, yes, you're right. The more you tell yourself you're this type of person, your brain will say, yes, you're right. And here's the thing, your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real or what you fabricate by thought alone, because the two things are the same. So the more you feed your brain something that's different, your brain is obviously going to not be familiar with it. So you need to build the resilience to that muscle, let's say. Okay, we have part of the brain which is the amygdala, and that's the survival part of the brain. And so when we look at our ancestors were out in the savannah a long time ago, had to be hyper aware to escape from a saber-tooth tiger. This is a highly, kind of hypothesis, but the relationship to it is the fear that we have that is based on how we feel within our own lives. So the survival instinct that we have is helpful, but our brain doesn't know the difference between that audition, okay, or that saber-tooth tiger, something that is actually a threat that you're worried about going to happen. So the two things are the same. So what do we need to do is we need to start being kind to ourselves. That's a key thing, okay? So you need to do the preparation. Yes, you do. That's really important, because if we're not prepared, then of course we're going to feel anxious. But we also need to be aware of how we talk to ourselves on a daily basis. We also need to know that caught up in stress and anxiety, your brain switches off the prefrontal cortex. So you go into the fight, flight, or freeze. You're in the audition room, fight, flight, or freeze. So you either try and fight through it or you run away from it. So we looked at avoidance, didn't we? when it comes to anxiety, we go into the sympathetic part of our nervous system. So the sympathetic part of our nervous system is in the fight, flight, or freeze. And there's no kind of way around that apart from getting into the part of our nervous system, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. Breathe, okay? It breaks the cycle and it's telling your brain, the prefrontal cortex, to switch back on. It's the first step. When you feel anxious, the first step you need to do is breathe. You may be freaking out right now, but what you'll find is you will feel more relaxed when you breathe. Okay, so we're going to do that together. I'm just going to talk you through why we lose this in the first place. When you were a baby, you were lying in a cot and you were breathing normally, but somewhere along the way, you lost the pattern of breathing. Okay, and that could be because we're slouching, sitting at a desk all day, we're wearing tight clothing, which restricts the breath going into the abdomen, which is what we need to have in order to feel more oxygen in the body. So what we end up doing is perpetuating the cycle, which is upper chest breathing. So we end up breathing up here. So what happens is it increases that feeling of stress hormones, anxiety in the body. And so you're more likely to feel more anxious. So when we can get the pattern of breathing back again, we feel more relaxed within ourselves. And it causes something called negative pressure. It's when the dome is forced downwards, it displaces the organs. Causes negative pressure, and we're allowing that gentle expansion of the in-breath and contraction. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to teach you how to breathe properly. We'll go through this in a lot more detail in the anxiety course, in the Transform Your Relationship with Anxiety course. Again, check it in the description below. This course is only £27 and you will be able to download the meditations, but let's go through the first one today. What I'd like you to do is find any comfortable position that's right for you. Place one naturally. So what you might find is when you do this practice, we're going through this in a little bit more detail in the course. What you'll find is when you do this practice, your shoulders will probably be raising. So what we really want to do is focus the breath into the abdomen. Okay, so it's almost like if you're a singer, you need to expand the air into the diaphragm. You've heard diaphragmatic breathing, and that allows you to sustain your breath for longer, but we need to learn to do that anyway. So we're going to be doing that today. What I'd like you to do is just breathe into the stomach and breathe out. And again, breathing in. Just notice if you're breathing up near your chest or if you're able to push your belly out, okay? So breathing into the stomach, feel like it's almost like you're pushing your belly. It's like a balloon, okay? And breathe out. And again, breathing in. Breathing in and breathe out. As we're doing this abdominal breathing practice, just notice if your shoulders are raising, okay? And don't worry if they are. Just focusing on the breath, breathing into the abdomen and breathing out. Okay? Expansion on the in-breath and contraction on the out-breath. Okay, now I'm going to move the hand away that's not moving. So for me, it's my chest that's not moving. So we're going to focus the breath. If you find that you're still breathing into the chest, again, don't worry. It's a practice. Your body needs to get used to it. And I do have the practice in the mini course that you can check out in the description too. And again, breathing in and breathing out. Okay, let's relax the hands down. Based on that practice, notice how you feel. Notice how you feel in the body. I feel more relaxed within myself. And just feel this sense of, just feel good. And the reason being is because you're going into your parasympathetic part of your nervous system. You're telling your brain to relax. This is a way in which we need to break the cycle of anxiety. I go through it in so many more details and steps, helping you to really understand anxiety in more detail and with practices, with meditations, with resources, and it's only £27. So have a look in the description below, download the course, you have this for life. And what it will help you to do is take control of your auditions. When you have an audition coming up, you know what to do, you know how to breathe properly, you know that I've got your back and I can support you. So again, you can send me a DM, you can send me a message on Instagram, that's absolutely fine. Any questions you have about the course, send me a message because I'm always there to support you. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.